Well, it is an absolutely beautiful morning here in South Carolina, and you might say, well, why isn't he out paramotoring? The old Todd here is pretty sore. It was like double football practice sessions for the past couple days. I ended up flying flight number 3 last night. I had a lot happen this week. First of all, last week I made a new friend. I've made a lot of new friends since I've started this activity and posting this stuff online. Particularly here in the in the Carolinas, there's a lot of interest, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of places to fly. There's not a lot of people actively flying, and there's a lot of people looking for instruction that just don't have the time or the ability to travel and camp out somewhere for 14 or 18 days to get training. And then how much are they going to retain in a cram session like that? So the individual that contacted me brought this over. It's a Green Eagle machine. I don't know anything about it. I've been trying to learn a little bit about the manufacturer and the history of the company and what they offer prospective pilots. Problem that I saw with my new friendship is I want to be very clear, and I was clear to the gentleman that I met, and super nice guy. Our relationship is not one of instructor and student. If we want to pool our resources and travel together to flying sites, help each other out with lifting equipment in and out of the truck, that's great. We can share ideas, but he cannot in any way, shape, or form perceive me as an instructor at this level. I've only flown 2 hours now, so just like the last 3 or 4 weeks, we seem to have been stuck in this 7-day weather pattern where about Sunday afternoon a big low pressure system comes spinning up out of the Gulf Coast states areas, maybe Birmingham, Alabama, and then it stalls out about the time it gets to Atlanta. And what that does is it causes a significant amount of southerly airflow. It makes for scuddy mornings, and by the time the sun gets up high enough to improve the weather significantly in terms of visibility, you're getting into the hot part of the day where the thermal activity is going to be pretty active, even as low as 500 or 600 feet. So, and then of course, not to mention the thunderstorms in the afternoon. When I start seeing those turkey vultures, hovering overhead and looking for lift, they're finding the lift, and I'm just not comfortable enough with my skill level yet to get up there with them. So the day's coming. So I did a couple things. I was tired of lifting my paramotor into the back of my full-size pickup truck and then sliding it all the way up to the front of the bedliner and strapping it down. Plus two, no matter how I strap it down, there's a metal component of the paramotor that needs to be isolated from the rear window, and any vibration in that thing's smacking against the window. So I usually have to wrap a towel around the prop spinner hub if I put it in that way, or I have to drape some sort of padding across the gooseneck arms so that they're not smacking into the window on every bump in the road, and that's problematic. So as long as it was too windy and rainy to fly, I built this little paramotor docking station. It's just about the right height for me to turn around and not have to pick the motor up off the ground, and if I need to, I can transport it there rather than sliding it all the way into the back of the long bed Ford. So eventually I'll be able to have a platform to pick the motor up and set the motor down much easier than off the ground. Getting on and off the ground with one of these things strapped to your back is part of the reason I'm taking the day off. The other thing that I spent the week working on was an improvement to my helmet and communication system. Okay, so like many of you, I picked up the Cena 10R for Bluetooth connectivity, and the vendor, which was Aerolite through their website, did the installation. They actually, two-sided taped the Cena system onto the helmet, and they ran the wires into the Pelter style, 3M style ear cups. And there's a little bit of circuitry in the bottom of the ear cup here on the microphone side. So these ear seals are removable, and they snap in and out, and it's pretty much just padding and a speaker velcroed to the padding. Well, I wanted to have the ability to communicate on aviation band frequencies. And the reason is that some of my flying is going to be particularly near the vicinity of uncontrolled airports with a reasonable amount of traffic. I want to know about that traffic, and if possible, I want to give them, the pilots operating at those airports, an idea of where I am in relationship to the field. I know they have the right of way. I understand all the FARs and the implications of it, but it's simply an awareness thing. It gives me a chance to listen to aviation frequencies and a chance to communicate if necessary. It might even be a life-saving feature someday if you needed help. So nobody makes a Bluetooth capable aviation handset that can be slaved to the Senna system. There are Bluetooth systems, but they all run on 12-volt power systems, and I don't have 12 volts. I don't have an alternator or generator on the Paraglider, so there's no way to operate one of those without carrying a 12-volt battery system and then the need to charge that. So I came up with an easier solution. I had a drawer full of dismantled and various states of disrepair headsets, and I dismantled about 3 or 4 headsets, and I came up with a system where I put a secondary boom mic. I don't know if you can see that in this side, and the circuitry for the boom mic, and the other side that wasn't filled with circuitry from the Senna system. And I ran a strain relief out the right cord, and then I can plug in just like a standard David Clark headset like you might be familiar with from general aviation. It plugs into the female receiver that screws into this handheld radio. So that gives me the ability now, communication-wise, to slave a phone, to slave any other Bluetooth device to the Senna system, to use the Senna system for communications with other Senna pilots via Bluetooth. And then it also gives me the hardwired aviation side of it, so I can communicate on aviation frequencies, both transmit and receive. And still working on the additional camera gear. I know some of you are really wanting to see me get better camera gear, so I'm working on that. It's in the mail, it's on the way, and the video camera footage is going to improve drastically in the next couple videos. Wiring this up was a little bit bigger task than I had initially bargained for. The electret microphone pickup needs to run through a little integrated circuit chip. It's got a capacitor on it, a little resistor on it, and a very small microprocessor. I don't know what the thing does, but I tried to wire directly to the plug-in leads and bypass that, and that didn't work out so well. I actually had to try 3 or 4 different components in here until I got one that works. Both booms, run parallel to each other, and then I covered them with that wind muff, and it works pretty good. And I could have probably spliced in and ran the aviation radio audio through the same speakers, but there was room in the ear cups to just pull the speakers out of one of the headsets and put them in behind. They're actually underneath the padding. I can turn the radio up so that I can hear it, and there's still room for my big ears to fit inside of the cup without actually touching the speakers. So I've actually got 2 sets of speakers in there, one for the Senna system and then the secondary ones from the aviation radio headset that I dismantled. I made a phone call from the air last night and talked to a buddy of mine that was watching, and the noise canceling part of the Senna really works well, and the pickup for the aviation radio works well. Is a good improvement as far as I'm concerned on the helmet. I was finally also able to get this 3D altitude profile generated through a third-party website, and it pops up on Google Earth, so you can recreate and overlay your flight maps onto the satellite imagery. Pretty cool stuff. So my new local buddy that brought his Green Eagle system over to my place, and I found a grass field. I had originally found this grass field when I owned a Cessna 150 for a while that I'd loan out to buddies and occasionally give flight instruction in. I'd never landed there. I thought it was a radio-controlled airport field, but come to find out on the sectional charts, we got looking because he had mentioned to me he was reluctant to operate his Green Eagle on pavement because he was concerned about rollovers. He was concerned about too much traction, wearing the tires out, safety for himself. He wanted to operate off of grass. And anyhow, we found this grass field at the local airport here in South Carolina, and it's spectacular. It's 90 acres of very well manicured, tightly mowed runways and surfaces. It's all accessible to paragliders, and the general aviation usage at this airport's pretty minimal during the week. I'm sure today, being Saturday, there's a lot of folks out there, especially in the morning. It's such a beautiful day. But during the week, we saw a fella doing touch and goes in a J3 Cub, and we saw another fella take off in a 4-place French-built airplane. Yesterday morning was a bit of a disaster. I pulled my wing up overhead, and it just nicely got fully inflated, and the winds aloft at 20 feet were 90 degrees to the winds that were on the field, and blew the wing over. After about 3 attempts of that, I tried to launch into the known relative wind, and that didn't work for me very well either, and I got tired, set the motor down, and by the time I picked it up again, it was so late in the morning. We had to drive to get out there. We got turned around a little bit. We did a little recon of the airport area and checked to see if it was safe for paragliders. And by the time we got set up, it was pretty late in the morning, and the winds were already starting to pick up. It was the first decent day we'd had in a while, and the sun was out bright and strong. I knew that it was a limited window of non-thermal air to get out and fly in, and I didn't want to take off much later than 10 a.m. But at 10 a.m., the winds were just perfect for doing this. But I decided that it was a little bit too late to start my morning paragliding adventure. So we packed everything up and came back, and I ended up going back out there last evening.